demand for information and knowledge about artificial intelligence. So for me, though, the key is not our growth. It's like, what does it mean to all of you? Of 2024, we started expanding our the way we thought about the impact of AI. Everyone wanted to understand what was happening. What is this generative AI thing? What is ChatGPT? And so we started spending a lot of time telling the story of AI beyond just marketing. And so in January of last year, I sort of introduced this new North Star mission for our organization, which was to accelerate AI literacy for all. So we continue to focus a lot of our energy on the marketing industry and building Marketing AI Institute as the core. But we have also launched a separate firm, SmarterX, that's an AI research and education firm that deals with all the other industries. So not just focused on marketing. And that business is all about education, inspiring and empowering people to reimagine business models, reinvent industries, reinvent their own careers. So this class, whether you're a marketer, an accountant, a lawyer, a CEO, whatever you are, wherever you're at in your career, this class is designed to present the fundamental knowledge. Think of it as like AI 101 if you were to take it in college. So getting into the actual kind of core of today's class, what we want to focus on is what is the opportunity that you have? So again, regardless of your profession, regardless of your industry, AI is starting to transform everything about the way we do business, the way we communicate, the way we sell, the way we design products and manage tech stacks. All of these things are changing. And research shows us, and this is actually from spring of 2024, so I'm anxiously awaiting updated data from Microsoft and LinkedIn. Hopefully, they've got a report coming out soon. But they asked in their Work Trend Index survey about usage of generative AI. And so at that time, again, 10 months ago now, 75% of people were already using AI at work, and 46% of them had just started doing it in the last 6 months prior to that. So from the end of 23 into early 2024. We're under the working assumption that moving forward, that at least 80% of what knowledge workers do every day will be AI assisted to some degree in the next 1 to 2 years. Now, what I mean by that is not that the AI is going to replace jobs. It's not going to do entire jobs, but it increasingly can do or assist in the tasks that make up a job. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. Now, the reason I'm quite confident in this projection that regardless of what profession you're in, AI will be there assisting you is because all of the software, all of the technology companies that we use to do our jobs are infusing AI into every aspect of what they build. So if it's Google, you have Google Gemini, you have Deep Research, you have Notebook LM. They're also building agents that will be infused into different aspects of organizations. If you're in a company like HubSpot, using them their marketing, sales, service, ops platforms, they're building AI into everything within HubSpot. You have Meta, if you're using, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they all have this kind of Ask Meta feature now. So they're not only building it right into their platforms, they're building language models. Llama is their open source model. And then that's enabling companies to build on top of their platform. If you're a Microsoft customer, they have AI infused. They have a big deal with OpenAI. They've invested about 13 billion into OpenAI, so they have access to all of OpenAI's technology, and they build that right into their Microsoft platforms. But they're also now enabling the building of agents, and I'll talk a little bit more about agents in a moment because it's become sort of the primary topic in AI at the moment. Speaking of, this is Agentforce. So if you're a Salesforce customer, in October of 2024, they introduced Agentforce at their Dreamforce conference. And this enables you to go in and basically build agents and define roles, connect data to them, define actions, put guardrails in place. So you kind of build these agents. So now, as crazy as it may seem, especially if you're relatively new to this, if you're just now starting to explore what AI is and how you use it in your job, it can seem somewhat overwhelming, but the key is it's only going to get smarter and more powerful and more generally capable. And so it's really important that people start to accelerate their own understanding and capabilities because the tech isn't going to wait for us. So if you're in like a highly conservative industry that maybe is more resistant to change, like the legal industry maybe, or financial services or banking, something like that, you may have a little bit more of a window to figure this out. But if you're in like e-commerce or retail or SaaS or professional services, this is like your world now. And you don't have that much more time to start figuring this out. So I think the key for everyone is to really start to think about how in their career can they become AI forward, is what we would call it. So how can you look to drive change for yourself, for your organization, by taking this approach where you accept that there's uncertainties and unknowns and certainly fears around this stuff, especially when it comes to like job displacement. We hear this all the time. But if you start to look at the opportunities and trying to figure out how can I do this in a responsible way? How can I ensure responsible AI within my own organization? And I can drive personal efficiency and productivity and creativity, but I can also do that across my team or across my department or across my organization if you're a leader. And so we basically think of it this way, is like being AI forward is a mindset, but it's also becoming a career imperative where 1, 2, 3 years out, there's no choice. Like if you want to continue to have a thriving career, you're going to have to be able to work with this technology. So I always like to take a step back and level set on what exactly is artificial intelligence. So my favorite definition comes from Demis Hassabis, who is the CEO of Google DeepMind. He defines it as the science of making machines smart. Now, this definition actually goes back to, I think, like 2016 was the first time I saw him say this. So the main concept here, to make this make sense, is replace machines with software. So if you think about the software you use to do your job, whatever your job is, that software historically couldn't think, reason, understand, or create anything on its own. It only did what you told it to do. It was based on rules. So someone created software and then you told it what to do. It didn't ever improve the process on its own. It's just followed rules. What we now have is software that can learn. So the primary function of the primary subset of artificial intelligence is this idea of machine learning. So data comes in, it learns from it, and it adapts its recommendations or actions out the other side. Machine learning is the form of AI we have actually had for decades. A lot of businesses, like again, if you're in a financial business, if you're in an e-commerce or a retail, if you're in marketing, if you're in ad spend, like media buying, you've been using forms of AI for a while, most likely. And what it does is it makes these predictions. So if you think about how like Netflix recommends shows and movies, Spotify recommends podcasts and songs, Amazon recommends what to buy next. Your social media feed recommends what it thinks you're going to read or click on based on your past. That's all machine learning. That's all taking your behaviors in and making predictions about what you'll do next. So again, machine learning's been around. Deep learning is relatively new in terms of like around 2011, 2012 is when these research labs realized that they could do the deep learning part. And that is trying to enable these things to think and act like humans, basically, to have these human-like capabilities. So again, if we look back historically, we have had forms of AI in the form of prediction. So forecasting models, pattern recognition, personalization, recommendation engines, these were all powered by machine learning. Then in 2022, initially in like February, March, we started seeing image generation technology like Midjourney and DALL-E from OpenAI. And then in the fall of that year was when ChatGPT was introduced. And so what 2022 brought us was the generative AI age, where the machine could now create text, images, video, audio, and code. There's other things as well, but like those are the main categories we think about. And at the base of all of this is something called a large language model. So these language models basically was a way for the machine to understand and generate words in a kind of a simple way. So the way this works is, and this was all invented like in 2017, the Google Brain team published a paper called Attention is All You Need. In that paper, they invented something called the transformer. The transformer is the T in GPT. generative pre-trained transformer. So 2017 is when all these capabilities actually started emerging, where they realized that the machine could actually eventually create things and write like a human. And so the way it works is it learns from all of human knowledge. Just basically imagine it sucking up all the text off of the internet, which is pretty much what it did. And then it learns the probability of words appearing in a sentence. So the cat sat on, then you have your language model, and the most likely next word based on its understanding of human language is the. And that's in essence what happens when you use ChatGPT. This is basically how it works. It's just really, really fast predicting the next token, or more tangibly, the next word in a sequence. Now, somehow it ended up enabling all of these capabilities. So this basic concept of predicting the next word has led us to tools like Notebook LM and the ability to use ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and Grok and all these new tools to do classification, ideation, planning, summarization, transcribing. You have all of these use cases that are horizontal, meaning they transfer across every industry. Like every knowledge worker does some form of these things in their job. And so we have this general purpose technology that is based on these large language models. So now, the way the landscape plays out is on the left, you have the companies building the frontier models. If anyone on the call today listened to episode 135 of our podcast that dropped this morning, I actually explain this landscape a little bit because it's shifting. But in essence, like Google and OpenAI are probably the main players moving forward, building these frontier models, like the biggest of the models. Meta will probably stick around for a while in this game. XAI is Elon Musk's company, which if you were following the news late yesterday, Elon Musk and Sam Altman are having beef again on, I'm not even going to get into it. They just listen to the podcast next week or go look at my LinkedIn post, but they're having some issues with each other. And then on the right are the companies that build software on top of these models. Now, a company like Writer also dabbles in building their own models. But for the most part, think of the companies on the right as the software wrappers. Like HubSpot doesn't build their own language models. They build software and features on top of other people's models, basically. So the key is these language models, so like this idea of training them on text and having them output text is kind of the foundation of everything. But that was always meant to just be the basics, the basis for what came next. And so now what's happening is we have what are called multimodal models. So think of a modality as text, image, video, audio, code, like those are different modalities. Image generation is a key one. So now this is, and this visual is actually outdated because it's from December 2023, but you get the point. This is 21 months of iteration, 6 variations of Midjourney, an image generation tool. On the left, you have abstract. On the right, you have photorealism. So in a 21-month period, the model improved that dramatically. Now we have tools like Sora from OpenAI, which is available. I don't know if they still consider it like a research preview or not, but you have the ability to do things like this. The VO2 from Google is another one. You have Runway. You have a number. Luma, I think, is another player. You have a bunch of players in this video generation space. You have the ability to use ChatGPT to do data analysis. I'm actually kind of shocked this isn't fully baked into Excel and Google Sheets yet, but I would imagine in the next 12 months or so, all of this will live natively right within like Excel and Google Sheets if they haven't already been testing variations of it that I just haven't seen yet. What this leads it to is truly intelligent assistants. So imagine Siri, although I'm not convinced they're ever going to figure out what to do with Siri, but imagine that Siri actually worked, or voice mode in ChatGPT or Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa. I think they just announced last week some updates to Alexa or plans to update Alexa. Imagine those things actually working, doing more than just like spitting out scores and weather, but actually interacting with you. And so that's what's happening with advanced voice from ChatGPT. If you've never tried it, it's shocking. Like go test it. You just go in, you click on the little audio thing at the bottom, and then you can have a conversation with a human sounding assistant. And the next phase in the assistant world is truly universal agents or assistants. So this is a demo of Project Astra from Google. This has started to come out, I think, in Pixel devices. Maybe they're doing like a demo version of this, but later this year, we will probably have a full-blown consumer version of this. You can actually do a similar thing right now in ChatGPT. So if you go into the voice mode and you click on the camera, what it does is it actually can see what you're seeing, and then you can interact with it and talk to it about what it's seeing and ask it questions. So imagine you're like traveling and you see a building and you want to understand the history of the building. Instead of Googling it, you can literally just pull up the camera and say, like, tell me the story of this building. Like, what's the history of it? What's the significance of it? Whatever. And it'll just talk to you. This will not only live in phones, but it'll live within glasses. So you can actually see a teaser right there. That's the Google glasses. So they're going to bring those back out probably at some point. Meta already has their Ray-Ban glasses. So the universal agents is like it's a thing. Like it's going to be part of our world very quickly. So to understand contextually where this is going, in November 2022, we got level 1. So this is OpenAI's levels of artificial intelligence. So we got level 1, which was chatbots. You could talk to them, basically. They were question and answer engines in essence. In September of 2024, we were introduced to the O1 model by OpenAI, which is their reasoning model. So this enables the AI to go through a chain of thought. If you pay attention in the AI space, this is like all the rage. Like reasoning engines everyone's building these things. We just got Gemini 2.0 Flash Thinking. It's Google's version of this. DeepSeek, which got a ton of press in the last 3 weeks, from the Chinese AI lab. That was a reasoner that was actually distilled from OpenAI's O1 model. So reasoning is a huge play here, and it's a very important aspect to where these things go. And then level 3 from OpenAI is agents. So we've already talked a little bit about agents, but I want to spend a minute. And if anyone's been with us for a previous intro to AI, this was not part of it. So this is like some new stuff that I've kind of built into this intro class. So an AI agent, the simple way to think about this, there's a ton of confusion around what these things are. But an agent is basically an AI system that can take actions to achieve a goal. So a great way to think about this is like so I mentioned at the beginning, like we were HubSpot's first partner back in 2007. I still use HubSpot today to run my businesses. So it is our CRM system, our sales system, everything. If I wanted to send an email to everyone on this webinar, which our team will probably do when we're done, send you out the on-demand access, it's a minimum of 21 clicks to send an email in HubSpot. So you got to go in, got to go, pick what you're going to do, content, type, lists, all these things. So you got to go through all this process. Now, instead, imagine that, and this doesn't exist, this is just a demonstration. Imagine instead that I just have custom instructions already saved into a GPT that does this exact thing for me, and I don't need to do the 21 steps anymore. And in the process, the AI sort of thinks of some things on its own. Maybe it looks at some data, maybe it adapts what it's going to do, how it's going to do personalization. But instead, I'm just prompting the system to go do whatever it does. I'm not giving it the 21 steps. It figures that out on its own. That's the idea of an agent, that the human no longer has to set all the rules for what it's going to do, that it has some level of autonomy where it does these things on its own. Now, the confusion that exists in the market is that these things are either autonomous or they're not. It's positioned. Unfortunately, some of these tech companies are at fault for doing this. They're treating this as though it's some binary thing where it's a 0 or 1, like it is or is not autonomous. That is false. That is not how this works. Every characteristic of an AI agent, from its adaptability to its ability to use tools, from its planning, its memory, it's all along a spectrum. So like autonomy, maybe 10% of it is actually autonomous, not the full thing. And so this is where a lot of the confusion comes in. So a way to think about this is like if I have an AI agent that's going to say, help me do my emails, there's 5 major steps involved with any activity. There's goal setting, there's the planning phase, there's the actual doing of the phase, doing the 10 or 15 steps. Then there's the improving upon what it did, and then there's like the analyzing the performance. The part that is basically autonomous for Agentforce or Microsoft agents or whoever is promoting their agents is largely the execution phase. So the human, for the most part, still tells the AI what it wants done, still figures out what access it's going to have to different tools, what integrations are going to be needed. And then the human basically says, okay, now go do the thing. And then it comes back, and the human now has to review it, make sure it didn't go off the rails, make sure it didn't have any flaws in it. So the human is heavily involved in these AI agents as they exist today. But there's this misconception that the human just isn't needed. So the agents that we have today, and this is, so Dharmesh Shah is a co-founder of HubSpot, the CTO, a great friend of mine. He has agent.ai. You can go there and like build these agents. This is basically how those agents work. Like you define a lot of stuff, you envision what to create, you figure out what they need to be connected to. So the human is there doing all kinds of things. The agent just executes then. And in that process, it's using large language models. And so there's some element of it like figuring its own stuff out. But for the most part, we do not have autonomous agents. So like, again, I apologize for like the tech industry for trying to create this perception. It's kind of like full self-driving for Teslas. Like Elon Musk has been promising full self-driving since 2016. It doesn't exist. Like it's level 2 out of level 5 on the scale that tracks this stuff. And so that's this problem. It's like a lot of marketing and hype that goes into these things. So that being said, we are seeing incredible advancements in what these agents can do. So Google has their deep research product. OpenAI came out with something like 2 weeks later under the same name, also called Deep Research. If you haven't used these tools, they're mind-blowing. Like I use these things all the time, and they constantly do things that would have taken me 10, 20 hours in 5 minutes. And so what you do is you just go through and say, like, here's what I want to research, you can go do this. And this is what it looks like if you haven't seen it. And now they're starting to show their chain of thought. So on the right-hand side, you can actually see it thinking. And it's like, okay, here's roughly the process it's now going through. And if you don't think these are going to be huge, they're going to change everything. Like this is a call for startups. We talked about this on the podcast this week or last week from Y Combinator, which is the accelerator that Sam Altman ran for 5 years before he took over at OpenAI. And so this is a call from 2 weeks ago for vertical AI agent companies. So they want to fund companies that basically replace people. And so they're saying like B2B SaaS was all about people working more efficient. AI agents are about automating the work entirely. So the people that invest the money think that AI agents are the future of everything. So it's stuff you really need to be paying attention to. Okay, so now let's get into a couple of really practical frameworks you can use when you leave here today to get started if you haven't already. The first we teach is problem-based model, and the second is use case. In the problem-based model, this is more, I think of as like director level and above. Think of challenges you have that need to be solved more intelligently or could potentially be solved more intelligently. And what you do here is you just go through, and you can literally do this in like a spreadsheet. Just put like problems that you're having. They can be related to, as in this case, sales. So like we fell short of sales qualified lead goal. And then with every problem statement, you want a value of what is it worth to us to solve this. Now you can do this across, again, it doesn't matter if you're in marketing, sales, service, ops, HR. You can look at the common problems that exist in your department or your organization, and you can go through and start writing these problem statements. Now, staring at a blank screen is challenging when you're trying to do this. So I built a free custom GPT that'll do this with you. So problems GPT, as long as you have a ChatGPT account, you can go in and do this, and you can just say, hey, I need some ideas in sales. I'm in retail, or I'm a law firm, or I'm a consultant, and just put in things that you're thinking about that you want to, kind of get started on. And it'll actually go through, help you ideate what the problems could be. It helps you write the problem statement. And then the real cool thing is once you're done with the problem statement, it'll actually write you a strategic brief of how to use AI to solve the problem. So this is available now, costs nothing, and you can go and kind of check that out and play with it. The second use case, the second kind of framework is the use case model. And this is all about finding use cases for yourself or your team that are tasks you already do that the AI can help you do more efficiently, increase your productivity, be more creative, things like that. So you're looking for tasks that are data-driven, repetitive, predictive, or generative. Doesn't have to be all four of these things, it could be any of these things. And the way to do this is think of your job as a bundle of tasks, like all the bullet points that make up your responsibilities, that's your job. And what you're trying to do is find of those tasks, which ones can AI assist me on? Now, it might assist in 10%, it might assist in 80%. It depends on the task. This is not full job replacement. Um, that being said, the AI models are getting smarter. They're getting more generally capable. With every improvement in models, there is an increasing exposure of our jobs to these models doing the work. And so I created this exposure key last year when I built Jobs GPT. And the basic premise was to try and project out the impact that AI would have on jobs as it got smarter and more generally capable. So we are squarely in this like E4 to E7 right now. We have video capabilities improving. We have audio capabilities improving. Advanced reasoning is the thing we're seeing with these O1, generation of models. Persuasion is another story for another time. It's already in there. They just bake it out of it. AI agents we just talked about, and then vision is Project Astra. So everything on this list I just showed you. Like, this isn't 5 years from now. This is real technology people are already building. And so in this case, again, I built, a free custom GPT called Jobs GPT that takes that exposure key, and then you just give it a role, like say marketing manager, and it'll go through and assess the common tasks that make up the job of a marketing manager. It'll estimate how much time the AI could save you, and it actually gives you a rationale as to why. And then you can say, break that into subtasks, and it'll go through and do that for you as well. So you can use Job GPT and do this with any job title. You can even upload or copy and paste your actual job, and it'll do it specific to your job. The other way to think about it is at a campaign level. So I like to think of this like campaigns are commonly thought of, certainly in the marketing world where I come from, but this applies to anybody. It's just a collection of tasks designed to achieve a goal. And so as an example, like in podcasting, so every week we're basically running a campaign of planning, production, promotion for the podcast. And so if you break that down, there's probably 20 to 25 steps each week, each tasks each week that we do to produce and promote the podcast. And so you just go through and you start looking at, okay, where within this could we be using AI to assist us in the process? And so we do this kind of stuff all the time. And so same deal, there's a free custom GPT called Campaigns GPT. You can go in here and say, hey, I'm in accounting. What are the kinds of campaigns I run that, could maybe assess this? And it'll go through and it'll spit out sample campaigns related to accountants. So again, it's just like, it's not going to be perfect. It's built on GPTs, so it's going to hallucinate sometimes. The point is, you're the domain expert. Like, you'll know if it's any good or not. It's just meant to get you kind of from 0 to 1 and like give you a starting point. So you can check that out. The other thing is, if you didn't join us in December, I held a webinar called, I don't know what the actual name of the webinar was, but it was about building a co-CEO. And so I shared the story of how I had built a custom GPT specifically to help me as a CEO. So if you go to the URL down there, and Claire can drop it, on the page, you can go through and copy and paste it. You can do whatever. So whatever your role is, just build a GPT for your just human language, no coding ability whatsoever. And you can build a GPT that just helps you do your job. So that's another great starting point that sort of like rolls all this into just one GPT. The whole point of all of this is when we think about our jobs moving forward and the collection, what is the human going to do and what is the machine going to do? And it's a sliding scale. Like, we're not done once you do it once. It's like, okay, 6 months from now, we need to basically ask the same question because 2 new models came out. And so you're constantly now evaluating this, like, as these models get smarter, how much of each task am I going to do and how much of the tasks is the machine going to do? And more tasks are going to be assisted by the machine. And maybe it's like, level 1, level 2, but that can make a huge difference. Like, again, the research projects alone is such a massive time saver for me that it justifies the entire cost of ChatGPT each month on its own. So the thing I always tell people is, like, don't get overwhelmed by thinking you have to deeply understand generative AI, that you have to take months to get all your data in order. Like, you don't need any of that to start getting value from AI today. You just need like the 1 or 2 or 3 use cases that are relevant to what you already do in your job, and start finding ways to use AI to help you with that. Okay, so I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions. If you haven't already, start throwing your questions in the Q&A. Kathy will be monitoring that. But from here, the key is to really think about, what do you do with this information? So there's two types of people that would traditionally attend this class. One is someone who's here for themselves, for their own personal transformation. And in that case, you're wanting to continue developing this understanding. You want to find use cases in tech that can help you in your career, make you more valuable in the organization. Maybe you want to be the one to raise your hand and start driving more responsible adoption in your organization, or you're just trying to figure out, I'm going to either advance myself here, or I'm going to go find a job somewhere else that's like more aggressively adopting artificial intelligence. Because we hear from people all day long whose companies don't let them access any of this stuff. And I think more and more people are going to start feeling a little bit, I don't know, like trapped almost, that like I'm at a company that isn't letting me experience with any of this, and I'm going to miss it. If I stay here for like 2 more years, I'm going to miss the entire shift. And so more and more people are trying to figure out, like, what do I, when I have this interest level and desire to learn AI, like, where's the right place for me? And so that's a natural question to be asking right now. The second type of person is someone who's here trying to figure this out for their department, their team, or their whole business. And in that case, you're trying to find ways to infuse this across the organization. You're trying to drive overall productivity, creativity. Maybe you're thinking about it from a customer experience perspective, from a sales perspective, and you're looking at ways to not just reduce costs, but potentially drive innovation and accelerate growth. And so a way to, you're trying to just develop understanding. The competency level is where you're really trying to figure out how to integrate this into your actual work, to find ways to infuse it into daily workflows. And you do that through experimentation, actually using the tools. And I need that on like a future episode, or future intro class. But traditionally do with Intro to AI, okay, if you're a marketer, we have Piloting AI for Marketers, and it's this 18-course series, comes with a professional certificate. It's about 8 hours of on-demand content. This is available right now. Like we did this, this came out in February, March of 2024. So it was about 12 months ago. We're doing a new version for knowledge workers, that's going to come out in a couple months. So this is available now. But if you were with us a couple weeks ago, I introduced new AI Academy membership program, and we've actually taken our Piloting AI courses and our Scaling AI course series, and bundled them into the membership. So if you're like all in, you got to start figuring this out, developing your career path, the AI Mastery membership may actually be the play for you. So you can go get the piloting on its own, but this is the annual membership. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this today, but I will say you can go to the AI Literacy Project. That was what I announced 2 weeks ago. This has all the details about our kind of like initiative around driving AI literacy across society. And within that, it talks about our vision for AI Academy and some of the major changes and updates we're making this spring. And that includes like launching business accounts and things like that. So go check that out if you're interested. And there's also a call for like ideas and partners at the end of that, because we're looking for other people who sort of share this vision to accelerate AI literacy, and looking at creative ways to bring that to universities and associations and nonprofits and unemployed and displaced labor, things like that. That's the kind of stuff we're trying to focus on. So my final thing here before we turn it over and welcome Kathy back for Q&A is, just don't do something. Like, don't wait for 3 months to go by, 6 months to go by, whatever it is. Like, go read a book, pick a podcast to listen to, take an online course, go to an event. Just do something to start moving yourself forward and finding which thread of AI you're most intrigued by, and like pull on that, because there's tremendous opportunities to be change agents within organizations. Every company we talk to lacks the people who have deep knowledge of this on the business side, not the technical people, like the business people who can actually figure this out and drive change, because we truly believe that the future of all work is human plus AI, and that future is happening right now. All right, I will take a sip of water and welcome Kathy back. Looks like we've got a few questions, Kathy.
We have a few questions. Nice job.
Thanks.
So there was a couple questions about every time we do this, I say that
Hallucinations.
like 4 extra syllables in there. Someone says it makes me nervous about reliability, especially with data analysis. Can you just explain what they are and I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
So hallucination, the AI making stuff up, like it's getting facts wrong, getting people wrong, citations wrong. It is a it is a fundamental weakness of the models, I guess you could say. It is just baked into how they work. Um, they're aggressive research paths trying to solve hallucination, trying to get it to the point where it's at least less than the average human would. So think of a hallucination as an error. Humans make errors all the time, especially in data entry. So like you have to accept that when we're assessing the AI's ability to assist in or do a task, when you're relying on a human to do that, the human makes errors. Now, if the human makes an error, you just like, they get in trouble, or if it's bad enough, they get fired, whatever. Like there's repercussions to that. If an AI agent makes an error, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Turn the agent off and like now we can't do any of the work. So the problem becomes you have to assess the risk of the error occurring for the task you're asking the AI to do. So if the AI is doing a research project where the human is going to review all the research, the human is the domain expert, they're going to verify everything, and before it's published, it's on the human editor that goes out. The AI is just there to assist in the task of creating the first draft. Um, if it makes a mistake, so what? Like it actually sometimes enables it to be more creative in the process. Like not a big deal. If it is data entry that is then being turned around and reported to the C-suite, and the human assumes the AI is right because it's the all-knowing AI, and it makes a mistake, that's still the human's fault. Like you're still the one who's getting called out by the C-suite for having delivered something that was incorrect. So I think people have to one, think about the risk associated with the task it's being asked to do. If the risk is high and it can't make a mistake, then it might not be the right use case for AI. Like it might just still be a human task. The other thing is we're huge believers that humans maintain agency in the use of these tools. What I mean by that is you are responsible for the output. No matter how reliant you become on these things, at the end of the day, it's the human's fault. If my Tesla steers off and heaven forbid creates an accident while I have it on full self-driving, supervised, that's my fault. I still have my hands on the wheel. And so I think that's the way to think about it is the human, when using agents in whatever form they are, whatever the use case is, the human should still have their hands on the wheel and be able to take control when needed.
Yeah. I mean, so being nervous is actually like a good thing to be versus being like, oh, we'll just use AI and AI can just go do it.
Yeah, and this is where the literacy becomes so critical. Like we saw these early examples, like in fall 2024, even like summer spring 2024, where you had like lawyers turning in briefs to judges that they had ChatGPT write because they didn't know that ChatGPT makes mistakes. Like, and so until we drive literacy and we understand not only what they're capable of, but what the weaknesses are, you're going to have really smart humans doing really dumb things because they think the AI is smarter than it actually is.
Yeah. Can you explain the difference between data that stays within your company or data that is used to train models and open to the public?
Um, okay, so I'm trying to approach it's publicly available. Assume any videos you publish